Hi, I'm Chani Nicholas. I am a professional astrologer and writer. I was introduced to astrology at a very young age, and it really kind of took a hold of me. My stepmom's mom, who was a Reiki master, thought it would be a good idea if we all got an astrological reading as kind of like a bonding experience. I just felt so taken with the way the astrologer was able to specifically talk about each one of us and why we were different. And it was such a beautiful tool to me to be able to distinguish not only who I was, but who each of these other people were in my life that were so important to me. So your astrology is a snapshot of the sky the moment you took your first breath, how all the planets are positioned, and the ways in which the planets are speaking to each other, and the ways in which the planets appear to us in the sky all mean something. And while all the planets are inside of a sign or a section of the sky, it's only one piece of the meaning of the entirety of your chart. You are a very specific, unique human, and you have a very specific, unique chart. So if you're an Aries, that's great. You share characteristics with all other Aries on the planet, but your chart is going to be profoundly different than most other Aries you meet unless they were born at the exact same moment in the exact same place as you. I think one of the most common misconceptions that we hear a lot about astrology is that sun signs are the be-all, end-all. They are just a very small fraction of your astrological makeup. The internet has democratized the information about astrology as much as it has about everything else. And so astrology has benefited from the upswing of sharing info on the internet, and also because I think millennials and Gen Z are so adept at identity politics and know how important it is to understand one's own identity. Our astrological makeup is another way to identify ourselves. And I think that as we are doing things on the internet and on social media, we're always looking for those pieces of our identity that makes us different or that distinguishes us and can be a way of expressing ourselves. And astrology is a language of archetypes, and so that's why it goes so well with music, that's why it goes so well with fashion, because we're looking at archetypes through the lens of astrology, which then show up in music, it shows up in fashion, shows up in anything we really want to look at, you can look at through the lens of astrology. So it's a way of seeing the world and the way of seeing self that's really shareable and applicable to any aspect of our life. So Mercury retrograde is a very, very common astrological pattern or astronomical event. We hear about it so much because it is so common. So it's just a period of time where the planet is slowing down, and it's kind of like when you're driving in a car and you're driving alongside another car and all of a sudden that car slows down. It looks like it's going backwards. It's the same kind of optical illusion that happens with Mercury and the Earth. 3 to 4 times a year, pop culture has tended to place a lot of importance on Mercury retrograde because it's so common. I think we started to hear about it, and then the internet picked it up, and then it was like this wild echo chamber, and now everything's about Mercury retrograde. But it really has been blamed and picked on, and becomes the repository for everything, and I think it's a little misconstrued. Each Mercury retrograde goes retrograde in a different part of our chart. So each one is very specific and very different than the last one. But those kind of more nuanced aspects of astrology tend to get lost in mass production of information. So each Mercury retrograde will have its own unique kind of character and its own relevance in your life, and you have to know where it's happening in your chart in order to understand that. But it's always a little bit of a time of a review or just a looking over something in our life or some way in which we're doing something. Saturn returns to the same place that it was in when you were born every 29.5 years or so. And so around the end of our 20s, we go through what we call a Saturn return. And Saturn is the planet of age and maturity and responsibility and boundaries and discipline. And about the time that we're entering our 30s, we start to understand that, like, maybe I'm not gonna be super young anymore. Maybe all of these behaviors that I got away with in my 20s, I'm not actually gonna get away with in my 30s. Like, things stop being so cute when we turn that corner from 29 to 30. And Saturn is there saying, yeah, it's time to buck up. Like, it is time to get to work. It's time to be disciplined. It's time to apply yourself to something. For some of us, that's a really tough corner because we get a lot of reality checks. And then for others of us, it feels really empowering and like we're finally stepping into our sense of self on our own. And the 20s can feel really chaotic for a lot of people. And for a lot of folks, and astrologically I would say people that are like Saturn ruled or have a lot of Capricorn or Aquarius or Saturn signatures in their chart, it gets more comfortable the older we get. For some of us, it gets less comfortable the older we get. So it's all about who you are, your astrological makeup, but the Saturn return is always going to be a corner where we're asked to grow up and take responsibility for our life and define ourselves for ourselves. It's about becoming the author of our own life. You can take any factor of life and look at it through an astrological lens. So when we look at music, we look at what that song is saying, the sound of it, the tone of it, and see what kind of astrological archetype that might resonate with. So every song is going to be saying something specific, and each sign or each planet or each astrological signature will also be saying something specific. So they are things that you can put together. Again, like fashion, like architecture, different places in the home. Because astrology rules the correlation between the sky and the earth, then you can look and see like every planet rules some aspect of the body, some aspect of the earth. There's crystals and elements, and there's so many different ways in which you can correlate life on earth and how we live it with astrology. So music is one of those things. The cosmic playlists are curated playlists that are musical editions or like a musical horoscope. So I look at the astrology for each sign and I'm looking at the quality of that time period. So I'm looking at the month for each sign and I'm saying, oh, well, these are the qualities of that time. And I'm thinking like, who is writing a song that has this theme in mind? There's things that are a little bit more nuanced that I'll look at. So I'll look at the new moon and the full moon and all the astrology that happens in between in that month. And I'll just try to find songs that either have that title that really resonates with the themes for that sign for the month, or sometimes it's a sound, sometimes it's the other lyrics. It might not be the title, but it might be what the artist is saying. And we just have fun with it. We try to, you know, like round out the themes astrologically with some music. To me, it's really important to have a diversity of artists or whoever I'm working with, however I'm curating what I'm doing. I think life is more interesting and deeper and more worth living the more diverse we have kind of every aspect of it. I focus on having artists that are emerging and that have incredible music, that have incredible skill, but maybe haven't had enough listens or haven't had, you know, enough chances to get their music out into the world. Humans are really complex and we're really nuanced, and our astrology charts are also complex and nuanced.